What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Nerd Castle. Today in the world of indie games, we are playing around with a title called Wantless. This is kind of an interesting game that I toyed around with during one of the Steam Next festivals. Interesting little title about a brain doctor, basically, in a cyberpunk setting. So the basic premise of this game is that you are a decker, but you're not like a decker in like the Shadowrun sense. So if you don't know what a decker is, in a lot of cyberpunk settings, a decker is a guy that can basically plug his brain into networks and neuromancer it up by flying around inside a digital world, duking it out with enemies to hack doors and unlock things and steal data and stuff like that. This game takes that idea and mixes it with a movie like The Cell. I don't know if you've ever seen The Cell, but it's a movie with Jennifer Lopez. It's actually pretty decent, honestly. Vincent D'Onofrio puts it on his shoulders, but it's a solid film. And the premise of the film is that there's a certain type of doctor that can do that decking thing, but instead of going into digital networks, they go into people's brains to fix things that are wrong with them. That's the idea in this game, is you're a doctor that can plug into other people's brains, and you can eliminate their trauma, you can eliminate their anxieties, you can help them remember things that they've forgotten, and you basically fix their brains so that they can live a happy life. However, in this title, something bad happens. So once you're a little bit on into the game, one of the catalysts for the storyline is that a patient comes in and he has some kind of thing going on that traps you inside his brain and tries to consume your soul, basically. And that's where the game storyline takes off. And so we have to take patients, we have to sandbox it up, we have to earn money, we have to equip our doctor to get to the point where we can ask the relevant parties, like, hey, what do you know about this guy who, like, eats people's brains or whatever, so that we can get to the bottom of it. Our current mission is to recover memories from a guy's brain. That's the entire point. And so, like, we've got to get rid of these little memories right here, these red guys. These are the ones that it wants us to get rid of. But also, we've got to avoid, like, flatlining this guy on accident, which is definitely a thing that you can accidentally do if you're not careful in this game. So let's avoid flatlining people today, shall we? So the basic core premise of the game is that you've got to do whatever the objective is that the game declares in this patient. And there are certain activities you will undertake that increase the opponent's instability. So something like a memory being destroyed will increase instability. However, if I interact with it and I preserve the memory, it increases his stability and makes him live longer. In the case of this fight, we're going to have to play a little bit aggressive here because his instability is pretty high. And if you notice, there's enough memories here that if the bad guys kill all the memories, bad things are going to happen and we lose the mission. So unfortunately, I had to be very aggressive about how we wanted to go in with this situation. I think it's not the worst plan to kind of like move over to here and then AoE these guys. They've apparently been infected with hyper empathy. I'm going to try to move like as far away from them as possible because I think I'm going to get chowed down on in this turn. Yeah, it feels very chowed downy right now. I definitely feel as though chow downy things are currently happening. The good news is these guys all casted Infect Sanity. Infect Sanity is an ability that as long as I don't hit these guys, we're good. And so they've kind of wasted their turns. This game has a unique combat system. I think this is going to be one of the main selling features of this game, is that it's got a you go, I go combat style, but the enemy gets as many AP on their turn as I spend on my turn. And you can spend up to 8 AP on any given turn. So a big part of this game is figuring out when do you take a little tiny baby turn and kind of starve the enemy of AP so that they end up in a situation where you want them to be, and when do you take a big turn to nuke all of the enemies down, obliterate them, and stop them from using like their big haymaker nuke abilities on you. And I think that's a very interesting juxtaposition as far as the game is concerned. That's a really good core compelling idea when combined with the narrative. And so what I'm doing right now is they put a thing called Soul Tether on me. If they have Soul Tether on them, if I hit them, it will increase the instability of the patient. So I'm taking little tiny 2 AP turns, starving them of that ability so that we don't actually flatline our patient on accident, which is obviously considered to be sort of like medical malfeasance. Don't kill the patient, I think is usually pretty high on any doctor's list of things to do. Like, do not murder the patient, you know? Like, yeah, it happens. Happens to the best of us. Let's go ahead, and if I could just, like... Man, I was hoping I could whomp that guy on that turn, but I guess not. Yeah, we're about to take some damage. I got overly aggressive right there. In general, the enemy does a lot more damage than you do in this game. They are much better with their AP than you. Like, they tend to have a lot cooler stuff than you do, and there's a reason for that. So when I first started playing this game, I was a little frustrated with it. Because the enemy is just so clearly better than you are. Their auto attacks do more damage than yours do. Their AP always seems to get much better efficiency than your abilities do. And so, like, starving them out and getting them into a position where you want them to be is quite difficult in this game when you're inside the first couple hours. The good news there is that's because the game has, like, a semblance of progression, and it wants you to advance. Like, the game is never going to be easy. I get the feeling that this was not designed to be an easy tactical game. This game is never going to pull its punches with you. That having been said, however, you do get the ability to craft powerful abilities as you get further on into the game, and we'll talk about that now that we've completed this mission. So we pulled out all of this guy's bad memories, basically. So they've all been eliminated, and hopefully he'll walk out of here happier. We also picked up a whole bunch of good memories while we were in here, which we can sell because we're the good guy. We can basically take photocopies of people's memories and then sell the data while we're in there. You can see that right there. So we get a fat paycheck increase for every memory that we recover right there. And so we've got those 4 memories that I picked up during the mission. We picked up a couple of legendary effects. We'll talk about what those do in a minute. But basically, this game has really difficult enemies that do really difficult things. And they do that because you are able to create incredibly powerful abilities in this game. So in most video games, your character levels up and unlocks new abilities, right? They're just set abilities that the developers designed, and they are now in your possession. This game, not the case. In this game, if you don't create your abilities, you will never get new abilities. So every single time you do a mission, you get different shards. And these shards are divided into categories. So you've got bases, you've got effects, and you've got cooldowns. And you build your own abilities. So for example, if I click on this guy right here, my Fear Pain Missile, and you can rename it if you want to customize this even further. This is an AoE projection, so I can fire it 2 to 3 tiles away, and it does a cross-shaped AoE. That's the base. I could make this a heal if I want. So when I fire it out there, that AoE heals everybody that's inside of it. I can do it so that it snares everybody inside of it. What I did instead is I went with double damage stacks, and then I put it on a super low cooldown with a super low AP cost. That made this ability very expensive. But it's a really good AoE that I frequently have up for dealing with large hordes of enemies that gives me an edge when I'm in those bad situations where enemies are kind of like outclassing me. And so you're expected to kind of like craft your own abilities and grow into your own abilities too. Like the enemies start out kind of like OP and gnarly because the developers are expecting you to break this game with the ability designer. That's really the way that it comes down. Is they're not expecting you to use any type of decency when it comes to designing your abilities. They give you full freedom to just go nuts with it and create really, really powerful stuff. The only catch is, you might be saying to yourself, okay, so you've got an ability that you can cast every other turn that does AoE with double damage, like what's the downside? This is the downside. Your character has this meter called Discipline. Every single thing you slot in has a multiplier on it. So this base right here, you see that at the top, it says Discipline weight. That's basically a multiplier for how much discipline this ability is going to cost you per thing you slot into it. So this guy kind of like leans towards the red side, which means this is going to be a very expensive ability the more you add to it. Not the most expensive ability, but quite expensive just to slot into your overall loadout. And so I've got a number of utilities here. I've got just a basic attack. I've got a telekinesis ability. I've got a dashing arrow that I can do to get around the map a little bit faster for a lower AP cost. I've got a Fear Pain Missile. Windy Ripple we'll talk about later. It's an AoE that eliminates all gas clouds clouds, landmines, dead bodies, things that are on the field of combat, because this game definitely took some inspiration from Darkest Dungeon. When you kill enemies, they leave corpses on the ground about 80% of the time, and stepping on those corpses almost universally makes some kind of bomb go off, explosion happen, gas clouds, something else. So having some kind of utility that clears those things off the ground in the case that you're inside of a dungeon that has lots of enemies that use those kinds of prohibited movement effects is going to be catastrophically helpful and bad for the enemy. We've got a summon over here where I summon a totem, and every single turn it spams an AoE that gives me shield. And then we've got a heal over here just in case my health gets low. And so these are all the abilities that I've designed so far, but it's by no means the only abilities that I can have. So for example, if we wanted to build a new base, we can clear this guy out. And let's say that we wanted to do an adjacent ability. So there's an adjacent ability. We're punching one thing that's adjacent to us. It's got a fist on it. I'm a melee build, so it makes sense. We could go with Oppress. Apparently, Oppress will deal 4 to 5 fear damage for every AP that we use for 3 turns. Damage is increased by 30% every time you spend more than 8 AP. Not bad. I could go with Repel, so that'll knock an enemy back by 5 tiles and do a tiny amount of damage. I need to get some more damage tiles. We don't really have any right now. But just for the sake of showing you, if I put this right here, this is now a debuff. I punch the guy next to me for no damage, but it nerfs their attack power by 20%. And then I can put this in right here. Duo Perpetuation. This makes it free. It has no cooldown. It costs me nothing to cast. I can just spam it. However, every time I use it, the patient's instability goes up. And then were we to finalize this ability, it shows you a preview. It's going to cost you 214 discipline. If I had gone with this guy right here, it only costs 28, but that's because it costs 7 AP to cast this, and it's got a every other turn cooldown. And so you see what I mean? You can build your own abilities here. I think that's the genius of this game. And then where it really gets interesting is that we have a tree over here. So you level up. You no doubt saw that I leveled up twice. What these do is that you can choose to get different buffs to different types of damage. You can get buffs to your HP. You can get buffs to just all kinds of little things in here. There's all kinds of like interesting little passives inside of here. No actives that I've seen so far, but a bunch of little passives in here that kind of make your character more interesting and also make you want to lean on certain elemental damage types or on certain strategies. So my character right now mostly got him built up as just like a melee brawler. That's pretty, or mostly got her, I guess. Mostly got her dressed up as kind of like a melee brawler. I've got like 8 level ups, mostly in HP and mostly in melee. You can respec whenever you want, as long as you have ponder shards. You occasionally get these randomly as rewards for doing random patients. And so we've also got a shop where we can buy some of the things that we need inside of here. So we can buy a ponder shard for 1,500 bucks. We could get a twin, which makes us attack on both sides of ourselves, or AoE on both sides of ourselves. We can get a wall with shield. It looks like we can get an automaton, which is pretty cool. I'd probably make an automaton that has like a punch ability. That sounds pretty sick, so he just walks around sucker punching people in the dick and like drawing ire off of me. So I'll keep that in mind for later. But for right now, we don't really have a whole lot to do. We need to take another patient. Patients come in tiers. There's also a map. So you have a riverboat that you operate out of. And so as you do missions in certain areas, people will like you less. People will like you more. You will get more benefits every single day after you take a patient. There's events that dictate what happens on the next day. So like for right now, I could just go back to Dumpstead, for example. And we could just come back over here. And we could set up camp. It'll be day 11. And it looks like the Altar Thought has maintenance for one day and the dealer has new items. So nothing too wild happened. We've got 4 patients lined up. So let's see who we've got here. Oh, we've got a special patient, eh? Special patients are like the one that came to the shop and tried to eat my brain. You never know what's going to happen with special patients. Good morning, Maria. Long time no see, Iris. You don't remember me, do you? We met a couple of years ago. I was working as an assistant for another transposer, although his practice was not to my liking. I'd love to ask about why you've stopped, and more importantly, why you've come back, but I guess we're not that friendly yet. Or are we? I know. Time, other patients. To the point then. I'm trying to understand how transposition dependency develops. Maybe it's just too good to forego once you've ridden yourself of a few unwelcome wants, or maybe there's something more, something happening on a neurological level. I think I might learn more by training my mind to consciously react to transposition. How about you try and preserve a few memories of mine, and I'll try to have my mind erase them instead. Don't fret, none of them are defining memories for me, just a few impersonal records. Research material, not much. Looks like she'll give me a Stoddard clamp, which is a trinket. You do have equipment in this game. Your character's appearance does change based on what jacket you have on. You have basically like a neuro glove. You have your robe, and then you've got your trinkets over here that'll boost up different types of damage, or they will give you different boons. So, for example, my character gets a bunch of defense for every AP that we don't use. And I think that's pretty good because there's a lot of pass turns in this game, so it helps out. So we could get the Stoddard clamp, which allows me to actually interact from 2 tiles away, which would be great for reclaiming memories. Really, really quite good for reclaiming memories. Yeah, we could go for it. I mean, I just said that I was looking for some kind of damage ability, though, too. There's a rare strike right there. We kind of need that for the damage upgrade. Let's do that instead. Like, there's a big part of me that wants to do the special patient, but I am desperate for attack tiles right now that I can use to build abilities. Like, my DPS is just not good enough. Now, this one's an interesting patient because this has another mechanic in it. So you can explore deeper. So you've got 2 options when you go into anybody's brain. You can follow the tracked route. So, like, you know Tank from the Matrix? You have an operator like that, too, who talks to you while you're inside somebody's brain, and they plot out the person's brain for you so that you know the path through their neurological maze. If you go this way, you're going into an area that hasn't been mapped. The benefit of that is you're learning your patient better of things that they're hiding from you, and you fill up this meter right here, and it gives you a multiplier to the amount of XP, to the amount of items, to the amount of, like, money that you get at the end of the run. And so there's a risk-reward mechanic here that's pretty good, too. But I'm going to play this one safe because I really want that attack tile, and I really don't want to screw up this transposition. Tough room. All right, so this is going to be a nasty room right here. This is a little bit of a room. I'll give it that. So this is a stealth segment. The stealth segments in this game are kind of bad. I think they need to be reworked. So basically, you're stealthed in this game at the beginning turns, and as long as you don't use more than 5 AP, you won't wake up the enemies. They move around randomly, though, which in my opinion is kind of like the problem with this stealth system. Even in hardcore strategy stealth games like Invisible Ink, they tell you where the enemies are going to move to on their turn so that you can plot around it. This game gives you no such prompting, so during the stealth segments, it's kind of all RNG. You never know what direction they're going to move in or what's going to happen next. And so, like, I definitely think the game should tell you where they're going to move to, though. I think that would be a big positive change, and it would give these stealth segments a little bit more meaning, too. As it stands right now, the stealth segments mostly exist for you to either grab a memory early or for you to get an opening turn where you kill a whole bunch of enemies and get yourself into, like, a solid position where you could blow them up. And so it's up to you to do what you want to do. If we touch a memory right here, it is going to wake up the enemies. These are spawners, so you can out-click on any enemy, and it'll give you their little unit card that tells you all the stuff that they do, and you can take that into account. So for now, let's just grab the memory, I guess. So we've grabbed the memory. I'd like to kill as many spawners as possible, as fast as possible, but I don't know exactly how I want to accomplish that just yet. So I figure, like, we dash over to here, I kill that spawner, the enemy has 3 AP to play. Oh no, they got the AP from the 5 that I moved prior to as well. That should probably be wiped out when you first wake up enemies. It should just be clean slate, I think. But either way, they're probably going to kill that memory right there. In killing that memory over there, it's going to be problematic. It's not going to be great. I can probably kill that guy on this turn, though. Like, if I move to, like, right there. Yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea. I'm going to go ahead and do it, and then I'm going to move that way. I don't know what this guy is going to do with his turn, but I'm sure he'll figure it out. Either way, I just need to get this last spawner knocked out. He was pretty far from me, so I figured he wouldn't be able to get to me, even with the maximum AP that I gave him. So I think we're going to be all right. This guy explodes, if I remember correctly, when you kill him. Maybe not. Maybe he does not do the explodes. But honestly, that was about as good as that room could have possibly gone. I expected that room to go much worse. Every time you clear a room, you get a buff that lasts for the rest of the procedure. So our hit damage inflicts Intoxicate. We can get light-footed, which means we can skip over ground tiles, things like acid and whatnot. We can get regen. I'll just take the Intoxicate because none of these are too crazy useful. And then we'll go grab that memory right there, too, for the extra money. And then we will go to the waymarked route. Okay, so we need 8 wretches to get gone. The wretches are those little dudes, huh? And we're in stealth mode right now. Okay. He's got snipers on the backfield, too. Alright, this will be an interesting one. Hopefully this guy doesn't move. That guy did not move. Okay, so we're in a good spot. I think we'll be okay. So what I need to do here is I need to... I think if I move to right here, I can AoE that corner. That'll kill both of them. I can dash to the memory and recover it. But it is going to be kind of expensive. This guy can snipe me anywhere on the map with an aim shot, I think. But he can't see behind that pillar. So I'm going to go behind the pillar and bait these wretches and see what they do. So that's 1 attack right there. That's fine. We can soak 1 attack. That's no biggie. That guy's going to jump. So jumping is a teleport, basically. That guy's going to move over to get me right there. But I've got, like, a plan for him maybe on the next turn. So this guy right here gots to go. And then I'll probably loop back around here to avoid the gunshot again. This guy's going to jump over to here. So he's probably going to get 2 attacks on us. Oh, just 1 attack. That's not so bad. He's going to have to move pretty aggressively, though, if he wants to get anywhere. Oh, he got the shot from right there. Okay. All right, you're just better than me, bro. You're just better than me. I'm proud of you. Congratulations on being better than me. We've got an explosive right there that I need to cook off. But I also need that guy gone. But I need to clear the corpses off the ground and step into right there, maybe. He's going to have to move pretty good to get to me right here, I think. Oh, he got the angle from right there. All right. We're just going to have to run this guy down. We don't have a choice. Let's go run him down real fast. And we've killed 5 of the 8 wretches that we need to get for right now. We'll teleport over to here. I'm not really going to be able to do too much on this turn, but we can mess his meter up a little bit. He's going to intoxicate and die, so that's good. He's all out of our way. And let's see here. Increase movement speed by 1. Ooh, for 5 turns, I get double movement. What does flow do? You leave a trail of flow in your wake. Reduces movement AP cost to 0. Oh, that's also pretty good. I'll take enthusiasm, though. And then we'll go on into the last room. We're doing pretty good right now. Only 70 HP lost. I think we might be about ready to move up to tier 2 enemies, maybe. Forgotten Ego. A new enemy. Protects enemies. Leaves a corpse on death. Okay. These guys are not aware of me, though, right? Well, if the enemies aren't awake, let me just maneuver myself into a position where I can make something happen here. And maybe these guys will move into a better position. Like, if I could AoE that right there, it'd just be absolutely incredible and kill, like, 3 enemies at once. These things, I think, also put the enemy to sleep when you detonate them. So if I detonate that one right there, it'll put him to sleep for, like, 3 turns so that I can deal with all the rest of these turds. We've got a spawner on opposite sides of the arena, which is kind of annoying. But we'll try to figure it out. No movement as of yet. Okay. Actually, how do I even get where I'm going here? Yeah, we're like blocked off down the center. That's very interesting. I think what I might have to do here is something like that. Because it'll blow up that so that I can travel a little easier. But it's tough to say. I'm going to go ahead and do it and just lose my concealment, and then we'll call it a turn. These guys only have, like, 3 AP, so I should be able to do something with that. He's going to grow an ad, so we're going to have to deal with that. We got some kind of AoE thing happening over here that I'm completely unaware of. Dashing arrow, not really going to be that helpful right now. It's only kind of good in, like, a straight line. I don't want to give them that much AP, but I might have to. They're all pretty far from me. Let's give them one big turn and just hope that the big guy doesn't do anything too gnarly. Oh, he just did like a big booty stomp. Okay, I can live with that. That's fine. The cool thing about this combat system is that you don't need like a tax of opportunity or anything either, because the AP self-balances. It's just like, how much AP do you want to spend on your turn to do bad things to the enemy, you know? Like, it's an interesting combat system. Let's dashing arrow over to here. Grab that. That guy's a memory warden. I can't pick up this memory, I don't think, until I kill him. So I am, once again, going to be a lunatic here and give them entirely too much AP to play around with, in the hopes that they've still got to move a long way just to touch me, and then I'll be able to grab these 2 memories over here, maybe. Alright, so you, sir. I'm gonna punch you a little bit. Oh, he gets like double, too. Okay, let's grab that. Let's grab that. Solid chance that this turn is really gonna hurt. Yeah, so he's got like a lot of reserve AP right now. This can go poorly. So we need to figure out some way to deal with this. We got him at half health. That's fine. That wasn't that bad of damage. For some reason, I don't know, dude, he's so big and hulking that I thought it would get worse. But I like the game. I think it's got a really good, interesting premise. I think the graphics are perfectly fine. I don't think there's anything wrong or offensive about the way the game appears. I think that the ability building is incredibly robust and interesting. I think the difficulty curve in this game is kind of like well appointed and assumes that the player is going to go out of their way to create broken abilities. And so once you realize that, so like the first couple hours of this game are the roughest, because that's when you don't have the cool abilities to deal with the fact that the enemies have some really cool utilities. But once you do have the ability to deal with that stuff, it gets much easier, much more quickly. And so one of my initial complaints was about precisely that like the game comes at you kind of hard. But now that I've played it for a couple hours and I've started like designing abilities to counter the things that I've seen the enemy doing, I'm happy with it. I'm okay with it, and so I would take that off the table. One thing that does concern me a little bit about this title is that there does seem to be some design schema going on that occasionally seems to force the player in a direction. So, for example, there was an enemy that I was fighting that was called a Sour. It's a little guy that looks like a little World War I soldier, and he plants mines and he runs away. What I didn't realize is that when you're fighting those little mine guys, they can target you, and in one turn with like 2 AP, they surround you on all sides with mines, basically. And so my initial thought was, okay, I'm supposed to use telekinesis to like throw a mine back at him and then create a gap that I can get out of. You can't do that. You can't push, pull, throw mines. You can't use any of the movement abilities. And the game's tutorial makes it seem like the movement abilities are like 100% vital, so I assume that would be a thing that you could do. But instead, the only counterplay to that enemy right there is to have a teleportation ability. Otherwise, you just have to step on the mine and take damage, which they use their turn to place on every side of you. Little things like that make me raise an eyebrow. Hopefully, we'll see less of that as the game moves further on into early access. Things that sort of pigeonhole you into like, okay, I have to have this on my character. Otherwise, this certain enemy basically just gets free damage on me every single turn. But other than that, I think that's the one thing that I noticed in this game so far. But everything else has actually been pretty pleasurable. I think the game's got a good idea going. Like, I'm digging what the game has going on. So my name is Splattercat. I sift through the pile to find what's worthwhile in the world of indie games every single day so that you don't have to. Today up on the chopping block, we were looking at Wantless, which gets a thumbs up from me for right now for the early access. Feels pretty good. Hopefully they'll iron out some of those weird issues, like enemies having abilities that force you to have kind of like... There's no reason to have like a movement ability like dash when you can have a teleport. Because the dash still triggers mines, but like the teleport doesn't, you know what I mean? And so I'm probably going to replace all my movement abilities with all teleports at some point, just because it seems to just have more utility and be better, considering enemies tend to put status effects on you and around you all the time. But I think that's like the one thing that I noticed that I was like kind of shrug about. The rest of it's pretty cool, man. Nice little budget RPG. I'll see you later. Thanks for hanging out. Bye, folks.